my radio show every Friday at 4 p.m. KNCE, Taos, New Mexico. It's 93.5 FM, 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So I've been doing that for 10 years, astrology and herbs. Pretty much just go through the week and try to make sense of our lives. And then give some herbs that might be related to the astrology at that time. Well, it usually is anyway, but or just what's going on in the community. So, oh, well, these are my handouts, for one thing. I hand did them because I'm better at that. Okay. Same pile. We could just use your pile. I don't know. Lots of piles of these. This is great. Use them for the next class. Okay, so anyway, yeah, so where I came up, I started to study astrology when I was 16 with my aunt, who's an astrologer. She's gone on. It's been a long time. It was 1968. And then later, I ended up studying astrology with Prajapati McCall, who was a Vedic astrologer, the first one I ever knew. Though I knew him since the 60s, we were all in a meditation group. He also ended up focusing on Vedic astrology, Jyotish. And then herbal medicine started coming to me to study about when I was like 18. So a couple of years into astrology, I thought, what am I going to do about all these problems? And then I had a most remarkable teacher named Peter Kabaska up in Vermont, who somehow he knew plants and astrology already. And I bought my first Culpeper book, which now is in tatters just about, but who was the one who was the master of those things at that time. And then later I met William Lesaussier, which was an American herbalist who, United States American herbalist, who ended up being very good at, like, he just knew many systems, and he kind of decided on, like, native to the Americas plants, their rulerships, and I've agreed with him and done that too. And so anyway, it's just been a lifelong deal, and I planted by the moon. Mainly it's kind of, I need schedules. I'm kind of, I suppose you all know astrology enough to know what Neptunian is like. Kind of like I need a little structure here and there. So I enforce structure on myself already. But anyway, the astrology has really helped. And what I've done over the years is I've looked at, well, what did the biodynamic people say? Like Rudolf Steiner, what does he say? And when I looked at their calendars, it looked to me like, I'd always heard they were sidereal, but not necessarily. I noticed he mainly planted by aspects. Like, these are good aspects, so we'll go by that. And especially the focus of that day being that way with the moon and such. And then a lot of people do go by sidereal, which is the way it looks in the sky. But, and I've been trying, well, what do you do, For one thing, if you go with the Western, you have 2.5 days to do that elemental sign, and then if you go by Vedic, then you have a couple more days in case you missed the first 2.5. Anyway, but this I know. Anyway, so you're totally different. But anyway, and in fact, I had to do it this week. But the one astrologer I talked to, who was not a plant person, but I just asked him anyway because he knew everything about astrology. I've never met anybody more brilliant. His name was Kenneth Johnson. He rented from me for about 3 years, and he ended up mainly knowing Mayan stuff. But he was Vedic, and he was Western, and he also had studied Hawaiian and Siberian, and he was like just brilliant, right? But I said, what do you think, because we were all farming on this land, and he said, well, I think the Western is the best because we're really following the precession of the equinox then. So I do tend to go towards more the Western, but if I just can't get it together, I'll okay, and I'll go with the Jyotish, And the other thing is to, I need to put on these things to see what I wrote, but a lot of things about it is what stars is the moon connected to at that time. And generally, if you have like difficult aspects, especially like Mars and Pluto and Saturn and things with eclipses and such, it's really good to use those for exercising. That's what they'll say in the book. This is an exercising star, and that's what you can do. You can exercise your grasshoppers. But for me, that has been, and I'm luckily not a Buddhist or a Jain or anything, so I will just take my scissors and cut their heads off early in the morning. So much fun. The demon side of me is, like, yes, that's good. Anyway. But, it's also for just anything that just you need to get rid of. The energy to get rid of is under those difficult aspects. And though, you don't generally, and Jyotish says this, Westerners go, well, Jyotish, the people from India, they like to hide from eclipses. Well, not just hide, they'll go into a temple and pray, about that eclipse. And Westerners, however, will let's go stand under it. And Western astrologers will stand under an eclipse and go, wow. So who fares better? I'm still trying to figure out. I don't know. A lot of it, I think, has to do with your intention. What do you think? The main thing I think with an eclipse is respect it. It's beautiful. So if you get to look at it, wow, it's beautiful. And then all the weird things on the ground with little moon things, if you're right under one, little moon signs, And there's all kinds of rules, do not plant during eclipse. I didn't this time. I was really like, the elements are good, but the eclipse is here, And I held off. But my son, who is more, I'd say, a more positive person than me, went right ahead. And they all look great. The starts are beautiful. So, hey. So, a lot of it is intention, and a lot of it is love. So let's say you miss all 6 days. And if you wait for another week or something, you're really throwing it off and expecting the weather to do what you want in the autumn, which we know how that goes. So, you just, give it love, which I'm sure all of you already give love to your plants and your seeds and give it energy and maybe a little magic in the hole or whatever, just, that's primary, is to just do it with a lot of respect and love. And I've definitely noticed when I was like, man, I got to get it done under this sign, and I'm really upset, and I'm really, and it's like just a flamingly bad aspect is why I'm in a bad mood anyway, and, and they will die. I mean, they will die because I space out, or they will die because they're going to die anyway, or they just don't do as well. So really intention, love, and all that is good. But I love going by the planets and the signs because it helps me kind of keep in line with things, And so here we have a basic, and it can get more complicated as you want, really, bunch of information. So, okay, yeah, number one, always plant where the plant wants to be, right? Consider shade, sun, water needs, feed when hungry, just like children, and plant in a proper zone. So the zones, where I live, it's 4. Are you all 3 up here? You're 4? You're 5. Oh, that's right, San Luis. That's why there's cantaloupes. Yeah, I remember just the San Luis people come down and sell the cantaloupes. Okay, and then plant annuals. You plant annuals new moon to full moon. You might know that. It's standard. It's in the what is it? Almanac. Yeah, the almanac. I still look at the almanac, too. I always am fascinated. And then you plant perennials and roots full moon to new moon. So that's pretty easy, you divide it up. And biannuals are somewhere in between. And biennial plants tend to be that way. That is what they are. They're in between. And a lot of it has to do with where you're living, how that plant is an annual, perennial, biennial. So you have to go with all those ideas too. And then, and so here I have, just right here, plant when the moon is, you know, in either all these signs. And so I went ahead and put the rulerships next to it, and I put the elements next to it, and the modes next to it, and the action of what to do during that. And I've seen books this thick, you know, Planting by the Moon, and they get really like super defined, and maybe even go by Culpeper's planetary rulerships of plants and all of that. And where I have found is when it comes to planetary rulership of plants, oh, where was my brain going with that? Shucks. Oh, it works especially good for making flower essences, because it's almost like you don't even have to check the stars. Your body is already in a cosmic state, and it's like, we're going to make that flower essence today. And so is the flower. It's kind of like what you might hear, that blue vervain should be harvested when Sirius is on the horizon, I guess in the morning. But that's an Egyptian thing. And anyway, there's stuff like that all through history and whatever, and I don't have it all memorized. But so the sign Aries is fire, and it's cardinal, and I'll just explain what modes are if you don't know. I mean, does everyone know what? I don't want to repeat knowledge. Okay. Okay, modes are like when you hear cardinal, fixed, and mutable. And then the elements are the fire, earth, air, water. So Aries is a cardinal fire. And Aries, like the vernal equinox, is when the sun goes into Aries. Is like the beginning of things. You know, it's spring, and it's the beginning. So it's especially good time to, like, clean up the land, you know, and dig it up a little, or if you do that, or whatever you do, you know, just get ready for farming. And, yeah, so the action is cultivation. And then Taurus is very fertile. Taurus is ruled by Venus. It's earth, and it's fixed. So fixed doesn't come into it as much, but yeah, it's plant food, but since it's ruled by Venus, you want to also consider flowers. And of course, all food has flowers usually beforehand. But anyway, it's just a great day to plant beautiful flowers. And Gemini, it is, yeah, just to say this real quick, fire and air are considered infertile, and earth and water are considered fertile. But anyway, Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and it's air, and it's mutable. It's very changing. And you cultivate mostly with that, except, here's an exception, a certain part of Gemini is connected to the sidereal stars of Rohini and Mrigashira, and they are very, very fertile signs. So in Gemini, you actually can go ahead and plant for fertility, for food, for lots of whatever. Cancer is water, and it's cardinal, and so you plant on Cancer moon. It's one of the best times to plant. It's very domestic, and that's what happened to me last week. It is so domestic that I felt like I just had to clean up this big pile of stuff instead of plant. So I had to, and then then Leo happened. I went, no, I can't plant during Leo. There's, you know, everything is all very, you know, it's like for exercising. It's for like getting rid of things, you know. So I did throw out more stuff. But anyway, I try to repurpose, mind you. But anyway, then I went to Virgo, which I like Virgo very much for planting, especially grain and medicine. And since it was what time of the month were we at that point? It was right before the full moon. So we were still on the new, so it would have been good for grain if I had gotten it together. But I did plant some medicine. and and then after Virgo, you have Libra, which is an air sign, but it's well known to plant with Libra for flowers. It is the stars in Libra are very much about. It's the Venus part of. Okay, the Libra part of Venus is very artistic and likes to dress up and wear jewelry and all that, while the Taurus part is more like, let's make the most perfect bread. But they're both Venusian, and they're both about beauty. And I know a lot of people, and I used to actually be this way, even though I liked flowers and everything. I want to just grow practical things. I want to grow food and medicine. But it came out that then I later got into flower essences, and I just realized, that's part of the spiritual part of everything is the flowers, the beauty of just the amazing creation. So then Scorpio, ruled by Mars and Pluto, old tradition Mars, new tradition Pluto. It's water, it's fixed. I really like to grow medicine during that time, but it's fertile nonetheless. So whatever you get in, get in. But it's really, Scorpio's like deep and likes to go into everything. So it's good for medicine. Then Sagittarius, which is another double-ruled one, it's Jupiter. Ooh, did I write that wrong? Oh, no, it's just Jupiter. Sorry. Sagittarius is Jupiter ruled, and it's another one very good for cultivation and getting, maybe calling other farmers and talking to them about things. And, it's good for networking. And it's also good for maybe looking at your weird seed collection and seeing which ones are kind of exotic and from far away. And it's also a good one. In fact, all the fire ones are good for making like biochar. But of course, then you must consider the wind. You must consider the dryness. So we must consider that for sure. And then we have Capricorn. That's Earth, and that's Cardinal, and that's. I really like planting. If it's in the new moon cycle between new moon and full moon, I really like planting grain. And if it's going from the full moon to the new moon, the waning, I like to plant roots. I like to plant gnarly roots. Capricorn always reminds me of potatoes. So I don't know. I just feel that way about it. Even though I can't hardly eat them, I love them though. They're so wonderful. But anyway, Aquarius, Saturn, Uranus, modern day Uranus rulership. This is again another cultivation, also another networking day. Okay, just to go get more information, share seed. And then Pisces is Neptune, Jupiter ruled. And that's water and mutable, and it's very much good for planting. And Pisces is such an ethereal sign, even if it's water and very much of the earth, the water on the earth. But also it's a great time to harvest seaweed and put seaweed on your garden and do anything with a fish, putting fish in your, I call it primordial ooze. I forget what people call it, but that stuff where you throw in the seaweed and the manure and I don't even bubble it. If I make it vegetarian and add fish later, it doesn't do anything weird. It just stays there, and I just often can't get that bubbler together. I don't know. So anyway, so there we have it. We're halfway through. Maybe I should just ask you all if you have questions. And if not, I'll figure out something to say. I will. Oh, okay. Well, I think there's some ideas I've been hearing that people plant on the full moon. I mean, some people plant, like Micah said yesterday, when you can see Pleiades on the horizon with the sun, and when you can't really see it because of the sun, that is the time to plant in Taos. So, so I'm just saying that, well, what am I saying? With the full moon, I love planting on the full moon. Just play around with it. I mean, you're sitting there, you're being really happy. You might even be putting the seeds in your mouth and then putting them in the ground. And you might be, I think it's fine. And one time on a full moon eclipse, which was before I started hearing that most indigenous cultures hide in eclipses, not like us Westerners, yay, eclipse. I did one of those sacred horn plantings of Steiner, and it was a full moon. No, it was a new moon Taurus eclipse, solar eclipse, and it was of course a cow horn, and I put a crystal in there, and I put some soil in it, which was pretty outrageous soil. I mean, I might as well tell you where I got that soil. I got it from. There was a very special event at the Pueblo at a man's house who knew Orville Looking Horse, if you know who Orville Looking Horse is. So he brought his pipe, but you cannot bring the pipe, the white buffalo pipe, outside of Lakota lands. So he had another pipe, but it was the man. It was the man who carried the pipe. Did this pipe ceremony, so all these people were in a big circle, and in the middle of the circle was all this manure. And so after that prayer, I asked the man who owned the land, I said, could I gather up some manure? He said, yes, of course you can. And so I gathered up some manure, and I put that in the horn. And then when I did it with some apprentices who had helped me do that, and I kept putting it off. And when are we going to dig up the horn? What are you going to? Well, like in Steiner, he says you do it on a sacred day. This is Michaelmas, I guess. And I forget what that means and what day that is. But anyway.
It's like the day where they do the Festival of Lanterns, and it's like a celebration of light in November, December time when like the dark is really settling in, and it's just like a big prayer festival to the light. And I think usually early November.
Okay, so it might be around Samhain kind of, or that's interesting. But then so we did it opposite even. Hi. Where was I going? Oh yeah, so these apprentices said, well, it's a sacred day in Taos. It's San Geronimo Day, and that is a sacred day in Taos. It's September 30th, and it's when the Pueblo do their big harvest feast, and they have clowns, and they climb up this slick pole, and they get this harvest at the top, as well as Coca-Cola and stuff, all up there with lamb and homemade bread and all the great, blue corn and everything. And it's a sacred day, and it's kind of like meaningful of what the year's going to go like in a way. So we dug it up on that day before we went to the festival. It's San Geronimo Day. So a lot of it, like Micah was saying yesterday, a lot of it has to do with where you are. What is sacred? Everything's sacred, right? But what is most sacred in your area, and what is a day where people have a lot of energy for things, for prayer or whatever? Yeah, this weekend. Oh, then you dig it up, and then. Oh, okay. Finish later. Oh, yeah. Okay. Hi.
Have you ever performed any experiments where you will plant the seed of a certain plant on the right day, and then maybe on either side, in a window, plant another few seeds, just to come, and then later look in your book and say, did it turn out the way I thought it turned out?
I'm not good at doing that.
Okay, all right.
But
Just
I think
curious.
it would be so cool to do that if I would only do that. But I'm still going, it's almost like I'm going on belief, So maybe you'll do that. Do you have a lot of Virgo?
This means bingo.
Oh, mango. You're a mango?
No, bingo.
Oh, bingo. I'm not a Virgo. I'm a mango. I don't know. Okay. Well, Virgos are great at that stuff. Yeah, okay. Back to that.
I wanted to ask what you do with the horn after you dig it
Yeah.
up.
Well, you save it. I still have some from that time. You only need about a tablespoon, and you put it in a bucket of water. And I've been generally doing the blessing on Beltane, May 1st around. And I like to do more of the solar Beltane, which means it's around Cinco de Mayo, around the 5th. And just you walk around your land and do this homeopathic prayers. I mean, it's kind of like where we live, when they do this, and how do you say that saint's name of farming? He's popular in northern New Mexico. Micah was talking about that too. But anyway, how just the priest will throw out the holy water thing. You know, it's almost like that. You're throwing out another kind of holy water all over your land. It's like a homeopathic remedy for fertility for your land. Yeah, so.
I would love to hear you talk a little bit more about why we would put seeds in our mouth before we plant them.
Oh, yeah. I never read the book, but I've had several apprentices tell me. Did you read the book, what I'm talking about? Okay, well, you already know.
Anesthesia.
Yeah, anesthesia, yeah. Just, it gives you the saliva, just gives, well, DNA. I mean, they even check your DNA through your saliva, right? But just gives the seed your energy, and it tells the seed what it needs to produce for you, like extra minerals or vitamins, and just the connection.
Also, I'm wondering if you could have any anecdotes about talking to or praying with your plants in your garden.
Totally important. Yes, very good. Yes, pray and sing and talk to your plants and all of that. And really, that's one of the things that just by doing this kind of thing for so long, you end up kind of more in tuned to of just the plant starts telling you things, and you might like, oh, I'm talking to myself. No, it might be the plant. It's just that inner voice kind of thing, which, I don't know, sometimes it's loud, sometimes it's like a whisper, but it's like in that zone of like being with your plants that it can come through, so.
What is the full moon in right now?
It was, it's just, we're on the next day, on they call the grandmother moon. It was in Libra, the full moon was in Libra and Aries, and Aries conjuncted, the sun in Aries conjuncted Chiron, so I thought that was very cool for this weekend, because the Chiron is the wounded healer, but it's also the teacher, it's a mentor, and it's pretty well aspected that we're okay for a couple weeks away. We got Mars, Pluto opposing since November, and has been have you noticed, chaotic? And then Neptune changing signs has made it like, what's real? Anyway, so, anyway, just the full moon is a good one, and we're very blessed to get to do, I don't know, the next couple of weeks should be great for growing herbs and medicines and stuff like that. Yeah. Okay.
Apprentices?
I can't seem to manage any more of that. Sorry. I mean, I did it for a long time. Sorry. Maybe my apprentices will take apprentices. They're young. I don't know. I can't talk all day like that. Only to myself, I think. Anyway.
Yeah. When you're looking at aspects, are you looking at like how all these different planets are working together in the different signs that you were speaking to earlier? Like, I would imagine Venus is a key planet to watch, but like how do you really pay attention like beyond just the moon to the aspects? Like, can you give an example of like Steiner's aspects that he looks for
And
Or,
I
like,
don't
what
even
you
know if
mean by that.
that's just the modern calendars. I don't know exactly what Steiner did.
Right.
I heard it was sidereal. Um, that just takes time, or asking someone who might know a little more than you, what do you think? And it just comes in over time, but it also depends on how you learn. Like some people like to learn, like I know a lot of herb teachers are doing this today, like one plant and immerse and do that plant and don't do anything else for 3 months but nettles or something. I heard about this girl went to Scotland, it was all about nettles. But anyway, with others, I'm more the other kind, which is take all the information and throw it in the middle, and you don't know anything for 20 years because of it, and then it all kind of comes together. So, I mean, it's kind of a dyslectic thing, I guess. I don't know. What are you going to call it? But, you know, it just takes time to understand what's going on. And really, in the meantime, any of your psychic ability, which we all have where in your brain, well, usually up here in the midbrain, but also all the way down your vagus nerve and all the intuition of your gut and your heart. But anyhow, it will tell you things. You just have to listen. And I make it sound so simple, and I know it takes a minute to get there. But maybe for some it won't. Maybe they'll just, I know what you mean, and you're already doing it, right? So that's really important. I'd say intuition's above all of it, because really the sky is always moving. It changes all the time. That's what the precession of the equinox is about. It moves along, and we're here in this rock in space, and everything's happening out there, and you don't know what's going to happen and that kind of deal. I hope that was a good answer. Yeah.
Lucy, thank you so much for just how awesome it is to hear you speak about the fact that it's not about perfection or like anything like that. It's just like being in the energy and listening to that. And I also like that you just said it's kind of have that mess and see what happens after 20 years. That's like my whole idea with Earth Regeneration Alliance is like the mess of like everything, people and land and microbes. And the goal is to have the planet regenerate by 2044. So it's like, I don't know how it's going to go. It's just put the mess in there. It'll figure it out with the energy and all the stuff.
Yeah,
so
they do their own.
Yeah.
Yay, mycelium. So, this has been fun. I've never taught this class specifically before, I don't think. Can't remember, but I did. But on the radio, I'll say, well, this is a good week to do this, that, and the other with that.
I'd like to follow up on Caitlin's question. The aspect, by transit, you're paying attention to the inner planets more. The transits of the inner planets that making aspect to the outer planets, but you're not watching the transits of the outer planets so much for planting because it takes too long, right? So it's more, or do you?
Well, Saturn, which was the old outer planet, most outer.
Right, that we could see.
Is an
that our
agrarian
ancestors could
god.
see. Yes, right.
He's got horns, and he's kind of like the Beltane stag.
Right.
Even though we all think of Saturn as very serious. And he wants the food to grow. But he'll do things like eat his children, so he's kind of gnarly. Anyway, but I mean, I'm okay with Saturn finally, kind of. Might as well be. He rules old age. I'm headed, there we are. So.
Do we have any final questions? Anything other wisdom you want to impart? I just wanted to see if there were questions. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm really glad to do this.